מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר בנותש ירביצני, עמי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסף רוויה. אך טוב וחסד יודפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Please join me in Psalm 23 now in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We gather here this morning, a very bittersweet day, very difficult to say goodbye. I'm sure many of you know this family has come from a great simcha this weekend, a grandchild's wedding, and now to come to this, to say goodbye to an incredible man who built this family. We gather here to remember with love Dr. Samuel Cydulka, a beloved son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, uncle, physician, and friend. Kerachem aval banim richam Adonai el Yereav. Ki hu yada yitzreinu zachar ki afar anachnu en nosh kechatzir yamav ketzitz hasadeh ken yatzitz ki ruach avra bo ve'inenu. V'lo yakirenu od mekomo v'chesed Adonai me'olam v'yad olam al Yereav v'tzitkatcho livnei banim. As a father has compassion for his children, God has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are but dust. But God's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all those who are faithful, endures age after age, unchanging. Sam has departed this world at the incredible age of 99 and a half years. He's returned home with a good name and in peace. Sam has left many behind in mourning. His 2 daughters and their husbands who became his own sons, not just sons-in-law, Rita and Mark and Michelle and Ed. The apples of his eye, his grandchildren, Anna, Gabriel, Jonah, Matthew, Noah, and Lissy, and her newlywed husband, Daniel. So many adoring nieces and nephews. Thankfully, even some were able to be here today. Many are in Israel. Sam now joins his life partner, his beloved wife of 62 years, Ethel, who died just 10 months ago. He joins his brothers and sister, Fanya, Yaakov, Yoshua, and Nisan, who lived in Israel and yet remained so close. He rejoins his parents, Michael, and Sarah, who were murdered in the Shoah. He joins them all in their eternal home in heaven. We have much to share about this truly amazing and incredible man, and we'll begin with a few family tributes. First, grandson Gabriel.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today to honor my grandfather, Dr. Samuel Cydulka. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, brother, son, uncle, and physician. I decided the best way to try and explain my grandfather is through 2 verses of one of his favorite songs, the Yiddish love song, Tumba Lalaika. Tumba Lalaika was one of many songs that he loved to sing. I was talking with my mom this morning and trying to get a sense of what other songs he liked, and he was known to be singing the song the Rebbe Elimelech, Grina Kuzinka, Hayuli Yomim Tovim, and the Russian song Ochi Chornia. But I decided that Tumba Lalaika is what really best encapsulated him, and a song that I, through him, grew to really know and love. Tumba Lalaika was one of the theme songs of my youth with my grandpa Sam. As my sister Anna, my brother Jonah, and cousins Matthew, Lissy, and Noah can attest, Grandpa Sam loved singing Tumba Lalaika. I'll start with the first verse, and before I begin, I want to apologize to all the Yiddish speakers in the audience for my less than stellar accent and pronunciation. Steht a Bucher, steht und tracht a ganze Nacht. Wemen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen, wemen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen. A young lad is thinking all night. Would it be wrong, he asks, or maybe right? Should he declare his love, dare he choose, and would she accept, or will she refuse? Luckily, my grandpa Sam was not like this confused young lover. Shortly after meeting my grandmother, he declared his love for her. As far as I know, he never worried about whether she would refuse. He did everything in his power to make sure this young, beautiful woman accepted his love. My grandfather must have conspired with the larger powers in the universe to make sure this message of the first verse of Tumba Lalaika found its way to the Collin and Weinstein households in University Heights and Cleveland Heights. I think my grandpa Sam got along so well with my dad and Uncle Mark because the 3 of them all never wavered in their commitment and love to the Cydulka women they chose to marry. And now for another verse. There are many verses to this song, and because of time, I only chose 2, and 2 that he liked. Tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, Tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, spiel baba laika, tumbala laika, freilach soll sein. Tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, play baba laika, tumbala laika, let us be merry. The chorus was my grandpa's favorite part of Tumbala laika. This is the part that I know the best and that he sang the most. I think it captures his life story pretty well. The words Tumbala and Tumbala laika do not mean anything in Yiddish and have no translated meaning, as far as I can tell. There are periods of my grandfather's life during the Holocaust and the ensuing years after that were impossible for most people he knew to comprehend. He never let this bother him. He dealt with it in his own way and made a decision to move on with his life. He chose to live his life in the spirit of the final verse of the chorus of Tumbala laika, freilach soll sein, may we be happy. My grandfather was someone that was happy and fulfilled. His work as a physician invigorated him. He was even happier working his side job as the world's best husband, father, and grandfather than he was speaking with patients and their families. He was at his happiest entertaining. Whether it was hosting his children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or longtime friends, his favorite pastime was finding ways to create more opportunities for his loved ones to be freilach. Saying goodbye to my grandfather was difficult the past few years. I was always afraid that when I said goodbye to my grandfather before leaving for college, my job in New Mexico, or grad school in Boston would be my final farewell to a man I loved so much. Grandpa, I hope you enjoy my final message to you with these words you knew and loved. Tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, tumbala, tumbala, tumbala laika, tumbala laika, spiel baba laika, tumbala laika, freilach soll sein. Thank you.
And now his son in love, Ed.
Thank you, Rabbi. Gabe, that's a hard act to follow. Those were beautiful words. I know that Grandpa Sam always enjoyed hearing from you and your siblings and cousins through written correspondence and phone calls, and you were the joy of his life. First of all, on behalf of the family, I would like to express our sincere thanks to the team of aides which provided Sam and Ethel outstanding care during the past 5 years. My father-in-law, Samuel Cydulka, was born on December 23, 1917 in Rovno, Poland. Part of Sam's blessing of almost 100 years of life was that he was able to witness and experience so many changes in the way that the world operates. What is remarkable is that during this very long journey, he was always successful and consistently figured out how to meet the challenges that he faced, including the extreme life-threatening circumstances of his struggles during World War II. Indeed, the simple trappings of the world that he entered in a European village not too much more sophisticated than the Anatevka of Fiddler on the Roof were quite different from the internet and other 21st century technology that we enjoy today. So how did Sam, more than once, move from one phase of his life to another, never missing a beat, while reacting to changes in the political climate and adopting new language and culture? I believe that the answer to this question is based on the simple fact that he was always guided by a metaphorical compass which kept him on course throughout his remarkable journey of the past 100 years. Sam's compass had 3 important components. First, an undying commitment to core Jewish principles which helped him make sound decisions and always treat those whom he met during his life journey with respect and dignity. Second, a deep intellect, including a natural understanding of math and sciences, a comprehension of patterns of history, and an uncanny knack to master new languages in a short period of time. And third, the ability to make friends and get along with others because of his sense of humor and the respect he gave his peers and the interest in their activities that he always displayed. Using the Jewish intellectual and social/communication components of his guiding compass, Sam was able to chart a course and navigate changes to the course as necessary as he proceeded through his remarkable life. It all started in Rovno, then part of Poland, now part of Western Ukraine. Sam had a wonderful childhood with his siblings. He idolized his sister Fanya and enjoyed playing soccer with his beloved brothers Yaakov, Shika, and Nisan, and their Jewish and Gentile neighbors. The 5 Cydulkas were all stellar students. Their mother was a scholar in Judaics and made sure that the young Cydulkas were well versed in Bible stories and Jewish ritual and that they learned some Hebrew. Their father provided for the family and taught them how to approach their work with discipline and focus. When Sam completed high school, he was excited to go to the Lviv Polytechnic University to study forestry. While he was a student in Lviv, Sam was advised to leave immediately in order to avoid Nazi persecution. He was heading back to Rovno in 1942, and someone stopped him on the road and told him to turn back because all of the Jews in Rovno, including his parents, had been murdered in a killing field. So there was young Sam in a major life quandary. He could not go back to school, and he no longer had a home in Rovno. He did not know which way to turn. Unfortunately, Sam never really wanted to provide us with all of the specific details of his fight for life during the war years. He always wanted to focus on the present and not force himself to relive the horrors of World War II. We all have different theories about what he was doing at that time. He most certainly wandered through forests and towns, literally dodging bullets. Some flying shrapnel lodged in his leg during this time period. He suffered great pain as he witnessed murders of fellow Jews while constantly fleeing for his wife. He was always on the go, jumping in and out of moving trains. We believe that he spent some time in the Russian army. We have found evidence that he might have been captured and worked in as many as 3 different labor camps, which were concentration camps where the captives were forced to perform hard physical labor under inhumane conditions and cruel treatment. In his covert travels, he was always looking for his brothers Nisan and Shika. The older siblings, Fanya and Yaakov, had already immigrated to Palestine. We will never know the exact details of the war years for Sam, but will always be in awe of his ability to maintain the strength and fortitude to survive the Nazi atrocities. When the war was over, Sam went to the Fehrenwald displaced persons camp in Munich. He was one of the few and fortunate Jewish students who was provided an opportunity to study with German students. He greatly took advantage of this opportunity and received both a dental degree and a medical degree from Ludwig Maximilian University. Apparently, as pointed out to me by Rita, during the war years, he observed so much death and dying that he began to feel a calling to the healing professions and changed his academic course from engineering and forestry to medicine. He met Ethel Brotman at Fehrenwald and was immediately mesmerized by her beauty. They quickly fell in love and started talking about their future together. They were both Zionists and would have liked to move to Israel, where all of Sam's siblings had settled either before or after the war. Ethel's mother, however, was tired from the struggles that she and Ethel had persevered and wanted to join family in the States. Ethel and her mother first settled in New York, and Sam agreed that he would meet them there after completing his studies and spending some time with his siblings and their families in Israel while he related for replacement to the green card that he had lost on a ship. When we talk about U.S. immigrants, we often focus on the fact that they arrived with very little money in their pockets. In Sam's case, while yes, he was virtually penniless, he actually entered this country with the following 3 valuable items, which would ultimately translate into a rich and fulfilling life for him and his family in the States: love in his heart, a microscope, and a medical degree. Because of his love for Ethel, he was determined to provide for her, his future mother-in-law, and their future children with a comfortable life complete with religious freedom. So one of the first things that he did in New York was to sell his microscope. That microscope had already served him well because it helped him obtain an excellent education in the life sciences and a medical degree. He used the proceeds of the sale of the microscope to pay for his traditional Jewish wedding. Now a married man, he was ready to begin his medical training. He was able to secure an internship at Beth Israel because of some impeccable timing. A female doctor scheduled to start the program needed to leave because she was pregnant. The Beth Israel internship program director was happy to have Sam as the new intern. Now in America, Sam's luck was starting to change. Sam and Ethel enjoyed living in New York. They were delighted when they started their family with the birth of Rita. After the internship, Sam investigated opportunities for a residency in internal medicine. Michelle told me that her father discovered that programs in West Virginia and Ohio were open to foreign-trained Jewish doctors. He ultimately applied for and was accepted to the internal medicine program at Mount Sinai Hospital in Cleveland. After Sam moved to Cleveland with Ethel, his mother-in-law Brana, and his daughter Rita, my beloved wife Michelle was added to the family. Sam took great efforts to find a home in University Heights where his daughters would be given an opportunity to receive outstanding secular and Jewish educations and live a full Jewish life. He always encouraged Rita and Michelle to study hard and made sure that they were exposed to all aspects of American culture. While Sam loved living in the U.S., there was always a part of him that longed to live in Israel with his siblings. He was alarmed when he realized that his children did not understand that they had a large family in Israel. He took Rita and Michelle on trips to Israel when each turned 10 so that they could meet their cousins. He wrote long letters to his siblings in Israel on a weekly basis, providing all of the details of his family's life in Cleveland, and the siblings in Israel shared those letters with each other when they got together on Friday and Saturday nights. He called Israel every Sunday. He was delighted that Michelle and Rita grew up to become close with their Israeli cousins. We are all thrilled that some of those cousins, Sarah, Michal, Davik, Maya, and Yuval, are with us today to celebrate Sam's life. I should also add that because they did not have family in Cleveland, Sam and Ethel were happy that they developed strong bonds with the families of other immigrant physicians and other members of Kol Israel, including the Mindlevak family, which is represented here today, with whom they celebrated so many Jewish holidays. Sam and Ethel were also happy to integrate first the Collin family and later my Weinstein family into their family and its celebrations. Sam thoroughly enjoyed his career as a physician. He purchased a practice which flourished, and he also worked as a staff physician and medical director for over 40 years at Menorah Park. He worked 7 days a week and seemed to rest only during the 1 or 2 week vacation that he took with his family during the summer. He was blessed in that he was able to practice medicine until he was 90 years old. He provided outstanding medical care to hundreds of thousands of patients who were forever indebted to him for his skills as a healer. His practice served multiple generations of families. He always provided his patients with carefully thought-out opinions. Even though English was not his native language, he was somehow able to use plain English to explain complex medical problems and the course of action that he recommended. His patients loved him and were forever loyal to him. Along with Dr. Mort Rosenthal, who I believe is represented here today by his wife, Sam established at Mount Sinai the medical clinic for Russian immigrants. One of his colleagues is also here today who worked in that clinic. Because of his ability to speak Russian and because of his own experiences as an immigrant, he was very effective at relating to and communicating with the clinic's patients. Throughout the years after the closing of the clinic, many of its former patients expressed their gratitude to Sam for the excellent care that he provided to these new Americans as they tried to acclimate themselves to their new country. Sam's work at Menorah Park was also particularly meaningful to him because he was dealing with aging and end-of-life issues. His interaction with the families was just as important as the direct care provided to his patients in a nursing home setting. During the last several years, many of Sam's fellow residents at Myers Apartments were widows of his Menorah Park patients. They frequently approached him in order to express their appreciation to him for the sensitivity that he displayed when caring for their dying husbands. Sam developed many lifelong friends with his colleagues at Mount Sinai. When he first started as a resident and later as an attending physician at Mount Sinai, he enjoyed his coffee breaks in the doctor's lounge. During the breaks, he learned from his colleagues about American culture, opportunities for his own young children, and the rules of baseball. Sam and his friends from the doctor's lounge enjoyed sharing their families' weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchot with each other. Even though his family and his desire to provide for it was one of the driving forces behind his working so many long days, it was also his family which ultimately caused him to cut his working hours. Sam was always very proud of both daughters' professional accomplishments and that they were excellent mothers who instilled and continue to instill strong values in his 6 grandchildren. When Michelle and Rita delighted him by moving their families to Cleveland on the same day in 1989, he began to work less so that he could become a big part of his grandchildren's lives. He made sure that he could attend their ball games, concerts, and plays. The highlight of the week for Sam and Ethel was Shabbat dinner with the entire family. If one of the families could not make it to his house for dinner on Friday night, then Sam and Ethel devised their own Meals on Wheels system and would drop off a carefully wrapped box of Shabbat delicacies, including challah, matzo ball soup, chicken, and compote. Sam celebrated Shabbat with his family at Myers up until the end of his life. Sam loved to help the grandchildren with their homework, particularly in the subjects of Latin, math, and sciences, and he enjoyed talking with each of them about their special interests and career goals. As many of you know, our family celebrated a wonderful simcha this past weekend as Lissy, Sam's third grandchild, married Daniel Allen, a great addition to our family. Sam was very much looking forward to watching Lissy and Daniel get married under the chuppah and perform the ritual of Sheva Brachot. Unfortunately, he did not physically make it to the wedding. However, we know that he was there in spirit and that he will similarly be part of all of our family's future weddings and other simchot. Before I conclude, I would like to ask each of you to allow me to indulge in a direct message to my father-in-law about what I will miss most about him and what I have learned from him. Sam, I want to thank you for letting me, Michelle, and the rest of your extended family escort you to Shabbat morning services at B'nai Jeshurun and Menorah Park for the last 8 years. I very much enjoyed the entire ritual. I loved to pick you up at the apartment. Ethel, as she had done throughout your entire marriage, woke up early to prepare a full breakfast that you would eat before we left. Sometimes you made me help eat the breakfast. When you had completed your meal, you expressed your love for Ethel by giving her a Shabbos kiss. We then got in the car and headed for shul. During our drive, we would discuss the events of the week on a world and family level and admire recent changes to the neighborhood. We always sat in the last row of the sanctuary. Our favorite part of the service was the prayer known as Ein Keloheinu, which means there is none like our God. I guess we both feel pretty good about our lives and enjoy the opportunity to praise God for our blessings. All of the pre-bar and bat mitzvah age children went up to the bima for the Ein Keloheinu prayer. We both sang the song at the top of our lungs. Every week, when the song was over, you leaned over to me and whispered, "Look at all of the young children who went up to the bima to sing and receive a piece of licorice." Sam, I am no different from anyone else who is constantly struggling to understand the role that religion might play in his or her life. I eventually began to understand why you enjoyed the Ein Keloheinu. When you noted every week that so many children were part of the congregation and went up to the bima for the song, you were trying to tell me why you chose to go to shul every week. For you, going to shul was not just a chance to enjoy the after-service kiddush with old friends. Oh yes, you loved when your former meat market delivery man, Bob Zelwyn, came up to you each week and said, "Was machsta?" expecting you to respond, "Mir schlepsa." You also loved greeting your old Mount Sinai colleagues, Dr. Cohn, Dr. Brahms, Dr. Rabowski, Nurse Lieber, etc. You liked when your suit salesman, Bob Goodstein, complimented you on a suit that you had bought from him a number of years ago. But the real reason you went to shul, I now know. It was that it provided you with a sense of affirmation and assurance of Jewish continuity. After all of the effort that you put forth to survive in Europe because of the Nazi Party's desire to eliminate all Jews, you wanted assurance that the Jewish people would continue to thrive even after your lifetime. Seeing the kids run to the bima before the singing of Ein Keloheinu convinced you that young parents are committed to teaching their children the rules and customs of Judaism. Throwing candy at young couples in connection with their Ufra pre-wedding ceremonies gave you comfort that more Jewish children were on the way. Observing congregants receive aliyot before their trips to Israel meant to you that the country which your four beloved siblings and their families had worked so hard to create, defend, and foster would always be in existence. So finally, Sam, I understand why it was so important for you to go to shul. You went to shul to receive confirmation that Judaism will continue to thrive. I want to thank you for teaching me this lesson, which has been an important building block of my own journey to understand the importance of prayer in my life. Thank you for this lesson and the many other lessons that you have provided me as a role model during the past 33 years. Like the rest of our family and so many others in this room today, we can only hope that with all that you have taught us over the years as part of your legacy, we are in a better position to lead meaningful lives and to continue the customs of our Jewish religion. I will miss you, Sam, and will always love you. Thank you.
Ed and Gabriel, beautiful. Rabbis say the words that come from the heart enter our hearts. You truly brought Sam to each one of us and into each one of us. He was a mensch. There really isn't more to say. Of course, I'll say more. But he was a mensch. He was jolly, joyful, buoyant, goofy. This Holocaust survivor never focused on loss, never dragged down by his challenges. He was filled with joy and he loved people. A dedicated family man, hardworking, resilient, and strong. He never gave up. He was loving and sensitive. Brilliant. As you already heard, he spoke 6 languages. He was a social butterfly. He loved to sing, and he was fun. This self-made man, along with his beloved Ethel, made this incredible family. He was an amazing physician, as you've already heard. His patients loved him, and all would agree he was the best. He was kind and gentle in spirit. He spent so much time with each individual patient. That gave him his well-deserved, outstanding reputation. He was a people person, smart and curious, and all these qualities made him a top doc. At some point, he wanted to start a practice in Painesville, as the story goes. He started to build a house there. That was until they learned that there was only one Jewish family that lived there, not enough boys for the girls to date. In a flash, the house was up for sale, and the office moved back closer to the neighborhood in the Heights. The girls remember when they were home having to answer the phone, Dr. Cydulka's residence. That was until they finally got a kids line. Michelle would work in the office in the summers, or he'd take her when he was doing rounds in the hospital, dropping her in the waiting room, always checking in on her, and she saw how devoted a physician he was. And Rita, of course, followed his lead, becoming a physician, a wonderful physician in her own right. You'd sometimes talk shop with Dad. It was good to be related to him because every doctor and nurse and most patients knew him, and they'd ask, "Are you related to the other Dr. Cydulka?" And I know that if his health remained okay, he was even planning on joining you to do some research in the emergency room at 99 years old. Sam and Ethel were an incredible team. They had a loving relationship, a traditional relationship. He was the breadwinner and the enforcer. Mom was in charge of the house. Mom deferred everything to Dad. Dad would make the decisions, but say it was Ethel's decisions. They were always so cute together, always enjoying laughing together. And as her health declined last year, when she was at the clinic for so long, even though it was very hard for Sam, he would visit her every single day, hold her hand, and give her a kiss. An incredible father, Sam set a high bar for his girls, always wanting you to do the best. Even though he worked so hard, he made time for you. He'd take you shopping for shoes. He'd drive you to Hebrew school on the carpool, doing rounds in between. He believed that women could do anything, and he expected you to follow in his footsteps. He wouldn't ask, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" He'd say, "What kind of doctor are you going to be?" Whatever you wanted, you got. Clothing, bikes, those annual vacations, Dad driving to the Catskills, the beach, Washington, D.C., that bicentennial trip to Philadelphia. He loved when your friends came over for Shabbos dinner. He'd say, "What's another potato in the soup?" Rita remembers as the firstborn, Dad being strict and demanding. Michelle, the secondborn, remembers how easygoing he was. Both agree that Dad had a great sense of humor. Like that one time that Mom shrugged Michelle's yellow fuzzy sweater. Michelle was so upset. So Dad took the sweater, put it on, and paraded around the house. He always helped calm you down and laugh. Or that other time when Michelle's friend frantically called on the phone, he picked up the phone, Sam, and she said on the other line, "I have an emergency. I have to talk to Michelle." Well, he was a doctor. Emergency, assumed it was important. He handed the phone to Michelle and he asked what was the problem. The emergency was that her dance date canceled for the BBYO dance. Sam thought it was so funny that till the end he would joke, an emergency, I don't have a date for the dance. As you already heard, he was so welcoming to his sons-in-law, Mark and Ed, who quickly became his own sons. Having grandchildren was the high point of his life. When Anna was born, they stayed in Michelle and Ed's one-bedroom apartment in D.C., sleeping on a cot. The baby, I think, had an ear infection, and they didn't sleep a wink that entire time. But when they came home, they said it was the best vacation they ever had. And when Gabriel and Jonah were born at his own Mount Sinai hospital, he was beaming. He was in heaven. He was active and present, as you heard, engaged and interested in his grandchildren's lives. Both Grandma and Grandpa had a sweet tooth. They had tins of Lifesavers, mini candy bars, cookies, Neapolitan ice cream. The grandkids remember all the sweets that they shared with their grandparents. And whenever you came to have Shabbos dinner with them, they begged for you to sleep over and stay over. The kids loved their time when they could jump on the beds and the couches, that pull-out couch, and stay up really late watching TV. He'd play soccer with the grandkids, get down on blankets in the grass and play with them. He had his old ways. He was old school. He always remained dressed in his best. He never owned casual clothes until the end. Relaxing for him meant maybe taking off his tie. Saturday nights, though, he'd watch big-time wrestling. That was his vice, I guess. He didn't like to eat out. Why go, he said. He'd proclaim, my wife is the best cook in the world. What can I get that's better than that? You heard he loved soccer. Growing up in Europe, whenever a soccer match came to Cleveland, he'd take the girls and exclaim, we are now going to a football game. He'd watch American football with Ed and make up funny names for the plays. He had his Greena card game. He and Ethel were very involved in Kol Israel, as you heard. He loved music and theater, taking the girls to the musical carnival and to the Hannah Theater. Sam loved his family in Israel, as you heard. He was known to them as Shmulik. And in the year 2000, he organized a huge family reunion in Israel. Without using the internet or cell phones or anything else, he coordinated an entire family trip, a huge overseas reunion with more than 70 family members gathering together at the Dan Hotel in Haifa. It was a great trip. Matthew and Anna had their B'nai Mitzvah on Masada, and Sam, at age 82, went body surfing in the Jordan River. The only thing he lost then were his flip-flops. He was always very adventurous and very fun. An ardent Zionist, as you heard, had pictures of Golda Meir and Moshe Dayan hanging in their home, and their mother, back in Europe, used to correspond with Jabotinsky by letter. They'd have two constitutions, he'd say, that you live by, the U.S. Constitution and the Jewish Constitution. Ed spoke about his passion and devotion to Judaism already. We loved having him in our congregation at B'nai Yeshua in all the years, the 16 years I've been there. At the back row every Shabbos, it was really, there are sort of no words to say how special it was to spend Shabbat with him. He loved singing. The family would sing Zmirot, Shabbos songs with him. And even as his memory began to fade, those Shabbos songs and the prayers still came to him. He was famous at Myers for wishing everyone a good Shabbos, even if it was Tuesday. As you heard, for the past month, all Sam was talking about was Lissy and Daniel's wedding. He was so excited. He had all the plans set for the night, what he'd wear. He taught his aide Lisha how to waltz. He was ready to celebrate. But perhaps Sam knew that he couldn't handle being at the wedding without his beloved wife Ethel at his side. Perhaps he knew that the family would be together. All the scattered grandchildren and even nieces and nephews would be here in Cleveland this weekend to celebrate Lissy and Daniel. He in no way wanted to take away 1 ounce of joy from the bride and groom. So happy for the first wedding of the grandchildren, for the family to grow. You know, Sam died on Friday afternoon when we were just about to read our Torah portion this past Shabbat, Parshat Chukat, which is filled with death. Miriam dies, Aaron the high priest dies, and Moses receives his death sentence. But we don't see this parsha as a sad parsha because it provides us the opportunity to look back on great leaders that built our country, built our people, that shared incredible values that we still pass on. And I think it's the same for Sam. You know, they say that they died, the rabbis say, with a kiss from God. Not a difficult death, but a gentle death, a dignified death and an honored death. And I think it's the same for Sam. He's now returned home, personally brought back by God, because he was a tzaddik. Sam was a righteous person, a mensch. He always remained strong in those final days and years, thanks to the love and support of his devoted family, going above and beyond, and we all can say that. You've been by his side, providing everything for him, giving him back the love that he gave from you. Today we can surely say that he's no longer suffering. He's at peace. May his name always be for a blessing, and we say, Amen. We'll rise now for the memorial prayer. Elamari rachamim shochen b'amromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina b'malot kedoshim utorim kezora kiyam asirim et nishmat Shmo ben Michael v'chayasora shelach l'olamo b'gan eden temenuchato Anna barachamim hastirei b'setek nefek li'olamim utzra b'trochayim et nishmato aronayu nachalato v'yanok b'shalom mishkavo Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Dr. Samuel Cydulka, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May he merit the reward for living a life of righteousness. May he rest in peace, and we say, Amen. Please be seated. Interment will follow at Zion Memorial Park. The family will then return to the Cydulka Weinstein home, 33 Lyman Circle. They will be sitting today until 9 p.m. And the entire week through Thursday night, we're having minyan services 7 p.m. at the Cydulka Weinstein home. They'll be sitting Tuesday, 2 to 5 and 7 to 9. Wednesday, they're spending the afternoon at Myers Apartments from 2 to 5, and then back at the house from 7 to 9, Thursday 2 to 5, 7 to 9, and Friday 1 to 5. Those who would like to contribute in Sam's name are asked to do so to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum or Menorah Park.